living sober. It's Elizabeth Chance here from Busy Living Sober. I hope everybody's doing well today. It is episode 486. Whoa, we're moving up here in our episodes, aren't we? So much news. So yes, I'm recording this on Tuesday night, October 8th. We are on the East Coast of Florida. We are not on the West Coast, but my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that is on the West Coast of Florida. It is just going to be devastating. It's going to be devastating. I can't even believe this is happening. And I feel terrible for everybody that's going to be in the eye of Milton. It is going to be coming across Florida. And at this point right now, it's going to be north of us. Thank goodness. But I am talking this month all about sober stories. It's going to be the month of the stories of sobriety. I am, although, going to do something different next Wednesday. I just wanted to let you guys know I have a guest from my trip to Medjugorje, and I want you guys to all tune in next Wednesday, but it will not be me. I have a guest next week, but I've guested both days next week, so you're not going to have me all by myself. This is going to be all by myself for at least, so you'll have me back 2 weeks from today. So hurricane. Here we are in a hurricane. It's crazy. And I have to tell you that back in the day, talking about sober stories, by the way, I would love to hear yours. If you have a sober story that you are willing to share with me, I can actually keep it so that it's anonymous. It's up to you what you would like. But I want you to know that I'd love to hear your story. If it's you that's battling addiction yourself, or you have a loved one that's battling addiction, because I know that there's so many people out there that have a loved one that's battling this horrendous disease of addiction. And sometimes they feel like they're lost and they can't share their story with anyone. Well, you can share your story with me. I would love to hear it, and I'd love to share it with my guests. And I would love for you to either write it to me, or if you're willing to, come on live, or not live, actually, I'll record it. I would love that. Let me know if you're interested. Email me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. That would be amazing. I would be so grateful if you did that. And I'm finding it so interesting how important my sobriety is. It is so important. As you guys know, I just spent this past weekend in Vermont with my daughter, and I told you it was going to be challenging, which it was. And it's that old saying, like, restraint of tongue and pen. Close this mouth, which I did a lot of. And respectfully was there for my daughter. I mean, it's just difficult, right? Life is difficult sometimes. And it isn't what we envisioned. And it's not always what we want it to look like, especially when we're raising kids. We're like, oh, it's going to be like this, or it's going to be like that. We have these expectations set, and in reality, they don't always come true. So that being said, I just sat back and enjoyed myself and kind of just watched and was the best mom I could be. And I feel like that's what we all do. We were all the best parents we can be, the best. I think we all try to be the best that we can be each and every day. I don't think any of us are out there ready to corrupt other people or wanting ill will towards others. I think, on the contrary, we always want the best for everybody. And I think that, sharing our stories lightens our load. It did for me. I remember when I went to my first meeting and I raised my hand and I said, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm an alcoholic," and how much freedom I got from that, because that was the first step to changing my life and getting it to the place where I wanted it to be. I wanted to have a life that I could be honest, truthful, and authentic. And admitting that I was an alcoholic was the first step. And then months later, I was asked if I would tell my story. And my story changes every time I tell it, because I think different things come up at different times when it's time for me to tell my story. And so when I told my story, in the beginning, in that first year of my sobriety, it was like so freeing. It's like dropping a heavy backpack that you've been carrying for a really long time. And you get to go, this is me. This is who I am. This is my story. And a lot of you have heard my story. But, my drinking was that I was a binge drinker. I went out. I'd promise I'm only going to have one drink. And in the end, I always ended up having way more than I wanted to. And that is because I have this phenomenon of craving that they actually describe in this book. I have actually the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous right here. It's like my go-to when I have something going on, and especially with people I'm helping. And there's some prayers in here that have helped me since the beginning. And one of them, which I read last week, was the acceptance prayer. And what I have learned from the acceptance prayer is that I don't have to own all these things that are going on around me. I don't have to have an opinion. I don't have to say something if I have nothing to say. I can accept that everything is the way it's supposed to be. And I had this amazing conversation with my sponsor prior to going on this trip. And I wrote it down I actually had it on a note card with me. And so when I was feeling like anxiety or something about something that was going on that I had no control over, I went to that acceptance prayer. I'm going to read it to you guys again, because again, I find it so important and so helpful. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact in my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept and instead of using the word alcoholism, you can use anything, right? If I can't accept my child, I can't accept the weather that's coming. I can't accept this hurricane. I can't accept that I might come home and not have my home anymore. I have to accept that. I could not stay sober or serene unless I accept life completely on life's terms. I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. So in my previous life, if there was a hurricane coming, I never lived through hurricanes before because I always lived in the north. But we would have these crazy snowstorms and power would go out for a long time and you couldn't go outside and it was too cold and you couldn't do this and schools were closed and you were in your house with your kids and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's kind of like this now. And back then I would drink, right? I'd make sure there was enough wine, there was enough whatever I wanted to drink in the house so that I could get by the situation. And that's not the answer. It's not the answer. Because guess what? Every problem you have will still be there. You'll put down the drink and you'll still have the problem. You'll be like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Because now I have a headache and I hate myself. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to handle all of this with acceptance and I'm just going to walk through it. And every situation this works with, this acceptance, I mean, this book is brilliant in so many ways. And by the way, it's on page 417 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it is the 4th edition. And so getting to a place with everything I have to accept. And when I accept it, I'm free. When I accept it, like I just did, situations happened on this trip that I was like, oh my gosh, shut your mouth, Elizabeth, shut your mouth. I mean, there were times that I, of course, couldn't shut my mouth and I said things that I've then had to apologize for. That's the other thing, apologizing and saying, okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I was wrong. Admit defeat. And that again, frees you. All these things free you. They don't hold you down. Being able to admit and say, you know what, this is what I said something, and if I offended you, I'm sorry. That is so freeing. Telling your story, so freeing. Understanding, explaining to people where you're coming from, why you feel the way you feel, explaining why. But a lot of times in today's world, we can't explain why we feel because the other person doesn't want to hear it. It's like, no, you're wrong. And it's like, no, I can have it. Like, we are not robots. God did not make us as robots. We aren't supposed to all feel the same way about situations. We aren't supposed to all have the same exact beliefs. I mean, we're supposed to be able to believe what we want to believe and feel freedom from that. That's why America was started. We wanted to have people be able to have the beliefs that they want to have, beliefs religiously, fundamentally at their core, and you were allowed to have those feelings without living in a country where they're like, no, you cannot believe that way. I just had on, again, a friend who is very connected to Bosnia and Croatia, which used to be under Yugoslavia, which was a communist country. And there, you couldn't believe in God. You couldn't hold an office in politics there in Yugoslavia if you were a Christian. You couldn't ever share your religious beliefs. You had to just be political. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't at least believe in something, whatever it is. If you believe in atheism, that's what you believe in. If you believe God existed and that God is real, you believe in that. And it's okay to believe that here. But I feel like some ways, like our freedoms may be taken away if that other woman wins the election. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get arrested because I've talked on, social media about my political beliefs? Am I going to go to jail because I believe differently than you do? I don't think anybody wants that. And I think that when we go to those voting booths, we have to remember what's really important. And that's that, freedom of speech, being able to believe what you want to believe, being able to own who you are, to own your story and not be shamed by it and not have sadness or remorse or feel shame. Shame is so horrible. You know that? Shame is like such a debilitating, horrible, horrible emotion. With this whole sober stories, I'm trying to help people get rid of your shame. Because I think that once we share our stories, the shame gets dissipated. It kind of disappears. It's like, guess what? What do I have to be ashamed of now? I used to say to my kids when they were growing up, I used to say, if you can't stand in the middle of town and scream from a megaphone what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Because if you are doing something that you can't scream from the rooftops, then that, of course, brings shame, right? It brings shame. And I don't think anybody needs to feel shame. God died on the cross so we wouldn't have to feel shame. He gave us forgiveness. He wanted to show us that we can all forgive and we can love and we can have real relationships with other human beings. The cross, the cross, there's one cross that goes up and down vertically, and then there's one that goes horizontally. They say, I just read or heard on Halo. I love that Halo app. I think they should advertise with me, by the way. But that center, here's a little cross from my rosary right here is a cross. So the center cross, the one that goes horizontal, it goes up and down. So it goes up to God and down to the earth. Makes a lot of sense, right? So you have that relationship with yourself down here on earth. And then you can have that relationship with God, who's actually all over the place. And then the vertical line is between us and other human beings, and having relationships, and how relationships really mold who we are, because we need relationships, right? We have to have community. It's what brings us happiness. It's what brings us joy. It's where we learn how to navigate life, is within relationships. And some relationships last forever, and some relationships are only here for a time, right? Some things happen, like literally you have a friend for a couple weeks and then they're gone because you realize, oh my gosh, I got to know this person. And you know what? In the end, I need to back off. That's okay. Some relationships last your entire lifetime. And some of those friends that you have for a lifetime, you might not only speak to every once in a while. Maybe it'll even be years that will go by and you pick up the phone and you talk to each other. And it's like we were talking yesterday. I just had one of those conversations prior to coming on this podcast. I called a friend to make sure she's okay. She lives on the West Coast, and it was not a long conversation because she is not at her house down here. She's at her house in a different state, and she is safe. But it was good to just call and check in and say, hey, are you okay? We didn't talk for a long time, just talked for a couple minutes and just caught up. And it felt like I had just talked to her 5 minutes before. It was so crazy. Do you guys feel like that with any of your friends? That you're like, you don't talk for a bit of time and then you pick up the phone and you call them and you're like, oh my gosh, what's up? And I have another friend that is has hard times sometimes, right? We all have hard times sometimes. It's a hard time when we have to decipher who are the good ones and who are the bad ones. Who are the people we want in our life and who are the people we don't want in our life. And our people pleasing is another thing like shame. We do things because we want to make other people happy more than we want to stick to our own values and our own beliefs. We'll do anything to have a friendship, right? Even if it puts us in a bad place. Look, I'm drinking different water, you guys. I'm drinking Saratoga. It's actually made here in the United States. We don't have to have it shipped in. It's here, made here. Actually, is it made here in Florida, in Pennsylvania? Not to digress. But this friend is like a people pleaser. And people pleasing is like so detrimental to us because we put ourselves in these situations that all we want to do is reverse because we're not being our authentic selves. We're being what other people want us to be. And we're like, oh yeah, sure, because I want to have so many friends. But we're not ourselves. We're what other people want us to be. We aren't being authentic. We aren't sharing what we really believe. If you have a real friend, you should be able to share whatever you believe, even if it's different from them. But I find like the political climate we're living in right now, you can't. You can't have a friend that believes differently because it's so polarly opposite from what you believe. And it's hard to cross that boundary, isn't it? It's hard to be like, okay, you believe that, I believe this, and let's be friends. No, it doesn't work anymore. It's like cut you off. That was the one thing I really learned from this, trip that I went on is that it's so easy just to throw away relationships because you don't like what somebody else is doing. Instead of going, you know what? They get to believe what they get to believe. I get to respect them. They get to respect me, and we can have a good time. You just pick the topics you're going to talk about and not talk about. It's like these holidays that are like, it feels like it's going to be Halloween any minute, which it is. And then it's like it starts to steamroll ahead to before we know it, it's Thanksgiving and then it's Christmas and it's Hanukkah and then it's New Year's and then we're back in January and it's going to speed by. And it's interesting because we are right now in the time. Last week was Rosh Hashanah, and this week coming up is Yom Kippur. And my Jewish friends tell me this is the time of year that everyone fasts and everybody thinks about what they've done in the year, this past year, and what they've done, how they reflect on that, and what they want to change and what they're looking forward to in the future. And they spend time just praying and thinking and what have I done and what have I done that I don't like and what do I want to do in the future to not be that way anymore. And that's a huge change. And I think a lot of us try to do that we think about it at New Year's. Some of us, it's not really, we just keep moving, which I had done for many, many, many years. I never was someone that really reflected on my behaviors. I was so busy running from here to there to here to there that I never took the time to really reflect. And today I reflect a lot more often. And I think about like what I've done and how I want to change who I am and what things about me I like and what things about me I don't like. And what do I need to do to change? What do I need to do to change? How am I going to proceed in my life and be authentically happy and authentically myself and not offend others and let others be others and let me be me and it's all okay. And that's what I've been working on for a really long time, actually. It's what I've been reflecting on probably for the past maybe 2 years since I finally got settled here in Delray Beach. It was finally a time for me to go and finally say, all right, I'm done running. I'm going to make a home. I'm going to make friends. I'm going to do it a better way than I always used to do. I used to get friends and then jump in and, become best friends with this group of people. And then in the end go, why was I with those people? And why did I do that to myself? And why? And it's because I was a people pleaser. I was a people pleaser for a really long time. I thought, oh, I'll buy you a nice gift and you'll like me. or I'll do this because you like me. And even though I don't want to do it, I'm doing it because you're going to be happy that I'm doing it. And that's not the way I think we're supposed to be. I think we're supposed to be authentic. I think we're supposed to be who we are. Bumps, lumps, lines, color hair, whatever, all of it. Just embrace it. I'm not going to embrace the color of my hair. I'm sorry. I'm going to color it. But anyway, but I am going to embrace the fact that that's me. I color my hair. I occasionally get Botox. But I, you know, I do it for me. I don't do it for anybody else. I do it because I don't like those certain things. And I'm getting older, right? I just turned 56. And by the way, thank you for everyone that reached out to me to say happy birthday. I'm overwhelmed by how many people said happy birthday to me. It was just a great birthday in that regard. It was just so many people reached out to say, hey, happy. And it was just meant a lot. I have to tell you, it meant a lot. And, knowing that sometimes we do things we don't want to do for our families. Like that's the most important thing at the end of the day is our families, our kids, our families of origin, all of that's important. And finding a way to navigate that in a healthy manner is like so important. That's where that acceptance prayer comes in. It's like if I have tools in my toolbox, I can go anywhere, I can be anything, I can do whatever I want to do if I just use my tools. It's like you wouldn't have somebody come to your house and fix your dishwasher per se with a saw or hammer. No. He needs certain wrenches. He needs certain tubes and stuff to put into the dishwasher to make sure it works correctly. He might need a screwdriver, but he doesn't need a hammer probably. And he probably doesn't need a saw. So what are your tools that you use? So here we are living in this time where there's so much devastation, especially here in the southeast of the country. I mean, with North Carolina, what happened there? I finally watched, because I don't watch the news or anything, I finally watched a YouTube video from a family that was in Asheville and what happened to them. And I think to myself, how did they manage? There was anger and there was so many things that you had no control over. None. No control over any of this. This is all Mother Nature. I know some conspiracy theories say, oh no, it's not Mother Nature. Some human made this storm. Well, if it's true, I think that Mother Nature and Mary and Jesus and God could probably intervene and say, no, we're not going to have that storm happen. But it's happening 2 weeks in a row here in Florida. In Western Florida is being hit 2 weeks in a row. It's crazy. I look at these pictures of like North Carolina, like nobody has homes. They have no water. They have no gas. Thank God here in Florida, we have Governor Ron DeSantis, and he's just ordered 2 million gallons of gas to the area. And, but you see that this devastation and everywhere there's all this rubble and people's furniture and mattresses and all these things that are on the side of the streets in Bradenton, over near Sarasota. And there's all these things littering the road. And what's going to happen to those when the winds come and the rain comes and the water comes? Is that all going to be in the ocean now? Is it all going to be flowing all over the place? Like going into windows and doors and knocking things over? But what do? We can only accept it and move forward and hopefully not stay in the storm. None of us want to stay in the storm. We always have to pick up wreckage wherever we are in our lives. We have wreckage all over the place. Not as horror. I mean, this is like physical wreckage. It's not physical as in human physical. It's like you've got to go physically go back to your home and open doors and try and make sense of what you get left after Milton. But as humans, when we go through life, if we are able to clean up our wreckage by going through and looking at what we've done and admitting when we're wrong and admitting when we just said something we wish we hadn't said, or we did something 10 years ago that we said that we don't even remember, but somebody in your family remembers, and you're like, I didn't mean it that way. We've got to forgive, and we have to use these tools that are given to us, and we've got to figure out which ones work for us. Having a toolbox, especially with all this stuff that's going on, is so bloody important. It's so important to have to have an idea of how you're going to handle a situation. And when I came into the program, you know, they said to me, we're going to teach you a way to accept things the way that they are and the way that they're presented, as much as you may not like them. How are you going to accept things and move forward? And that is the answer. It's accepting things exactly the way they are and going, you know what, this is the way it is. I might not be crazy about it, but it is what it is. And I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to say prayers, and I'm going to get on my knees. I'm going to say a rosary. I'm doing this challenge the month of October where you go and you do the rosary with somebody that's on Halo every day. And I committed to doing it. I also committed to walking 8,000 steps a day. That has not happened. I'm living in the rainiest place. I can't get outside. I try to walk around my house. It's only 1,700 square feet. I don't know how many steps I would have to take to get to 8,000 steps in this house. I think I'd have to walk. I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting and I'm reflecting. And I'm saying prayers for the people that are over on the West Coast. I'm saying prayers for the people of North Carolina. And I'm praying for America. And I'm praying for everybody that's out there. I mean, I know that life is just a gift. And we are only here for a short period of time in the scheme of things. Only a short period of time. And what are you going to do with this time? What's your plan? How are you going to handle things so you don't spin off the excess and all you want to do is pick up an alcoholic drink just to drown your sorrows away? You don't want that to be your answer. You want to be able to enjoy your life. You want to free everything. You want to be your authentic self. I watched this thing. I went to Tucker Carlson a couple weeks ago, and he talked about it. He said when he got fired from Fox and started his own network, he was able to finally accept who he was. He came out in public and said, I've been sober for 22 years. And when he did that, he said, it is so freeing to just admit who we are. The shame needs to go away. We need to embrace who we are. We need to find tools that are going to work for us rather than picking up a drink or a drug. What are those tools for you? What can you pick up rather than picking up a drink or a drug? How can you deal with your feelings? What are your tools? I want you to share your stories with me. I think it's really important that you share your story, especially if you're dealing with this disease head on yourself. I'd love to hear your story. And if you have a loved one, because I feel like that's kind of a missing link, the family members of the addict. It's just so hard because you have no one to talk to because you'd feel so much shame. And it's time to let that all go. Take the shame away. Tell your story. Let me know what your story is so you can own it. And you don't have to have remorse of like, oh, what if this person's talking about me or that person's talking about me? Who cares? If they're that bored and all they want to do is talk about you, I always think that's a sad life for me. I'm like, you're talking about me. I'm not that exciting. I help people. I help people try to understand that life is just so precious and it's time to enjoy it. And there's so much darkness around. And how are you going to find joy? Are you going to let the darkness pull you down? Or are you going to bring joy to the situation and say, you know what? When life gives me lemons, I'm going to make lemonade. And that's what I had to do. Whenever I got lemons, I always tried to find some sliver of hope there. And that's what we need is hope today. Hope. You are not alone. I'm here. Reach out to me. Please, Elizabeth at elizabethchance.com. And I want to end today I have my new mouse. I'm kind of liking it. I want to end today reading a prayer that somebody gave me at a meeting a long time ago that I actually found. And it's so funny. On one side, I was going to read you guys the prayer, but on one side it says, God, put me where I can be of maximum service. And I pray it's with this podcast and hopefully eventually maybe going out on the road, who knows. But the set aside prayer, Maybe this will help you as one of your tools. God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the meetings, my disease, and you, God, so I may have an open mind, a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth. I'd love to hear your truth. Please share it with me. Please. I'd love to hear your stories. Reach out to me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. That's enough for me. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Again, you won't have me back on here solo for another, it won't be next week, it'll be the following week. And reach out to me. I'm going to probably do reels and that sort of thing on Instagram and all the other socials for the advice of someone, and I'm going to follow their advice. And I want you to know this, you are not alone. If you're out there and you're going through really hard things right now, I promise you, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. If you want to receive my email on Fridays, my newsletter, which I send out every Friday, and it goes out at 10 a.m. Eastern time, go to my website, busylivingsober.com, and right there you'll be prompted to see if you want to sign up. And please do that, and you will get that newsletter right to your inbox. I just want you guys all to know that I love you. I'm sending prayers to everybody around the country. I just want you guys all to know that we need more love. We need more hope. And a friend of mine gave me for my birthday a Dove hair clip. Is this not gorgeous? It's a Dove hair clip. And it just makes me remember that peace, we all need peace, love, and hope. So that's enough for me. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, share it with your friends. And until next time, everybody, keep getting busy, living sober. Bye, everybody. Take care.